Hello, hello, hello. Can you all hear me? Probably need to turn the music down some. Let me know how that sounds. If it's too loud, microphone needs to come up. Music needs to come down. We're gonna get this bad boy going. Hello, hello, hello. How are we doing, everyone? Just gonna move over here and grab some stuff. And we are gonna be all good to go. All right, well, I hope everyone is having a good Sunday thus far. All right, so today I wanted to take a look at a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to take a look at is just some basic housekeeping stuff, just some news and everything like that for what I have going on here. So I am currently working on an anthology book. It's pretty much all the way done at this point. I'm standing by for just one 8-page edit. Once I get that and slap that into the book, it's all donezo. Pretty much I'll go over it, look everything over to be sure that there's no typos, so on and so forth, and everything is good. And that bad boy is going off to the printer, so I mean, I'm going to be done with it probably in 2 weeks is probably my estimation here. So way ahead of schedule. I basically sat and cranked on it even before I had the project announced. Like I already had my end of things already done pretty much. So that way when I got everybody else's work, I wasn't sitting around with my thumb up my ass when I was actually doing stuff. Sean Crystal had mentioned on the last Ink Pulp Live that they had done that they're going to be, that I'm going to be doing a second and third volume. That is the case. I already have, so it's going to be 1 to 6 pages. I'm going to be announcing the form/submission sign up probably towards like May to June-ish time frame. So like early, late spring, early summer. I already have 4 of my 6 pages penciled and inked. So I just got to finish up my other 2 pages and get them scanned in and done. So once the project is announced and out, it's all done and good to go. And I don't have to do anything on my end. Just getting some stuff pulled up here. Okay, so for EDPCon, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh from September 13th to the 14th. I'm going to be shooting some videos and whatnot with some other people out there as well, so you can keep an eye out for that. But if you want to stop by, say hello, pick up some books from me, I'm going to have posters, prints, stickers. I should have at least 2 to 3 books. Hopefully I'll have 3 books done by that time. Obviously the first anthology is already almost done. Second anthology should be like wrapped up and done around like August timeframe, July-August timeframe. So it's definitely going to be before September. So hopefully we can get it out before then. But I did enroll into Sean Crystal and Jake Parker's course. So at the end of that, you should have at least a 10-page comic or so. So that's also going to be kind of factored into that. So I have multiple comics kind of going at the same time, just kind of juggling multiple projects. So it's been a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. All right. So one of the other things that I wanted to take a look at here today. go ahead and get this pulled up here. So this is the table of contents as you would for, and then as well as the back cover for the book. It's pretty much completely designed at this point. As you can see that the whole design aspect of this book, I was trying to make it look like a Famous Monsters sort of thing. I'm a big fan of like those old Warren mags, so Famous Monsters, eerie, creepy, so on and so forth. So I have a short box just full of those. I pulled out 5 or 6 issues from different, years, decades. So one from the 70s, 80s, so on and so forth, and kind of took the best out of each of those in terms of the design and tried to put them into this. So like the fonts are exactly the same. The way that like the oval and the lines are like exactly the same. So I tried to get it down to, like I said, kind of like a greatest hits of like the design of like the Warren mags, and kind of the same thing for the outer covers. So you can tell with like I tried to get the font as close as humanly possible to the Famous Monsters font, and it's exactly the same. I sat for way more than I care to admit to get a font that was the right one, because there are so many that are like the Famous Monsters font, but it is not correct. For example, like the Misfits logo, that looks like the Famous Monsters font, but it's not right. So that's one of the things, you have to, the fine details really matter when you're doing these sorts of things, because if it doesn't look right, then don't do it. At the end of the day, you're in charge of your project, so make sure that it looks right before you actually submit something. With that being said, I can show off a couple of test pages here. So I don't think I've shown this off yet. So this is page number 1 for me here. So let me get zoomed in here on this for you. Basically, is what I am doing is I am laying out a universe to where there are multiple characters, and my thought process is, because we're going to be doing 3 anthologies, I have this one. So this is kind of like an introduction to, I guess, like the universe as a whole, kind of just like a tone piece, I guess you could look at it as. And then the second story is going to be more of an introduction to a character, and then the third one as well is going to be another introduction to a character, so that way you kind of, get a realm of what's going on before I throw everything into like a full-on like comic book. So it's just kind of like samples or introductions to get people's palates wet to what I'm doing. So this is, more or less the aesthetic that I'm going for here. Let's see here. So then this here, John is somebody who's local here with me in Wisconsin. He had done a comic, and I want to say it was like 64 pages. So if you're in the chat, John, like, good on you, dude, for cranking out a comic that's 64 pages long. That's no small feat. So, just getting a page done of comics out and published and done is hard enough as it is, and doing a full 64-page comic is no joke. So good on you. So yeah, he put out that comic. I want to say it was like sometime mid last year. I could be wrong, but I want to say like I picked it up around like October-ish time frame. But yeah, I was in the comic shop and I had seen it on the rack, and as you can see, like, it's stick figures and stuff, but there's a lot of personality to the drawings. And I thought to myself, like, there's actually something here, and when you read like his writing, it's very like it's clever, right? It's funny, and his lettering is just like top notch. So like, let's zoom in on this here quick, and I just want to show you guys. Like, look how good his lettering is. I had asked him, I was like, hey, because obviously, we're all cartoonists here and we're all taking this shit seriously. If you don't own one of these, a named lettering guide, you should go buy one, because it's like, if you're not hand lettering your own shit, it's like, what are you doing? Get away from the digital fonts, people. So I asked him, I'm like, what do you have your guide set to? Because you're handwriting and spacing and everything is just impeccable. And you know what this dude tells me? I'm not using a guide. I'm like using an old like ID. I'm just using that to draw my lines and stuff. That's honestly super impressive. Never in a million years would I be able to do that. I can letter in different styles, but it would never look that neat. So if you guys are looking for somebody who's like a top tier independent letterer, John's your guy, and you know his contact is going to be down here. So you know, reach out to him, and then as well, like obviously, I made it a point to put people's contact information on their pages, so that way, if somebody sees it and they like it, they can reach out to that cartoonist and maybe do work with them. Just reach out and just say, hey, I really like what you're doing. You know, whatever the case is. This is something that, you know, Eddie P, Jim Rugg, even the Ink Pulp dudes, they fucking get on all the time. You guys have to put your contact information in the books. How are they going to get a hold of you otherwise? Like, because guess what? If you're just, if your name's Jim Davis or something like that, and then you make a comic, and that's all you put on it is just Jim Davis, good fucking luck on somebody finding your comic, searching on Google or finding your website, right? Like, it's never gonna happen. Especially with how much SEO and stuff like that matters. So that's just stuff that you have to take into consideration when you're making your comic, and you have to remember, you are essentially advocating for yourself and marketing for yourself. So think of yourself as a business, right? At the end of the day, the comic business, that's exactly what it is. It's a business, and you have to have that relationship to where you have to advertise for yourself. And what does every fucking business do? They put their phone number, they put their email, hours of business, so on and so forth, on their websites, on their business cards, on their doors. You see what I'm getting at here. You have to present yourself in a professional manner at all times, so that way people would want to work with you. Just a piece of advice. So again, this was kind of a larger universe that John had done from, it was called Ninja Cheyenne. So this is just kind of a short story that he had done within that same universe. But yeah, like I said, if you're looking for a letterer, John's your guy. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's show off some more sample pages here. All right. So James Carney is somebody who's, you know, within the ink pulp community here. He, like, what else can you say about this, right? When he had sent me like examples of what he was working on, just like when he had like roughs and stuff, and he had like this Nosferatu character, I was like, fuck yeah, man, because that's like exactly, you know, kind of what the vibe of the book I was going for, because again, famous monsters, Warren Mag, so on and so forth. So that was, you know, the kind of the direction of everything that was good for. And I mean, Nosferatu, it's a classic, right? I was just blown away by his cartooning, like just the way that Nosferatu's like face is like planted up against the panel there. Super cartoony, but he still has an aesthetic to what he's doing. It's like, look at this expression here on this. Like, this is straight up from like The Spirit. Like, I just see Will Eisner like through and through here. So if Will Eisner was like a influence on you, you know, I definitely can see it. So that's awesome. Crazy pages though. And like I said, I wasn't interested in making like an amateurish looking fucking comic. Like, I was gonna show up when I was ready to make a comic. As you can see, like, we're not making an amateur comic. Like, this shit's professional. So if you guys slept on submitting pages, that's on you. There will be there will be a number 2 and a number 3. All right, so here we go. So this is going to be, I guess, a splash page from Nathan Campo. So again, he's somebody who is within the ink pulp community. He had submitted this out to me, and he does like a lot of Japanese inspired like ink art and things like that is what I consider it as. So if you're familiar with like, you know, Street Fighter, that sort of thing, he's a big fan of. So if you are into Japanese scratchy, you know, pen ink style, you know, he's doing a great job. And as you can see, like, this thing's fucking sick. So shout out to Nathan there on that. Nice pin up that he sent in for us. And then over here, so this is from Grant Lankard, and it was just a one-page story that he had sent over to me. Basically, is what this was is it was a repurpose. So I'm assuming this was for Eddie Pecan for last year, and it was for like I'm assuming like an anthology or something like that that Bobby Piscor had asked them to make. The page never got used, so we repurposed it because this is going to be getting sold at Eddie Pecan, and then as well, obviously, the kayfabe guys are massive influences on everyone, including myself. So we stuck this in the book and we decided to use it because, hey, we have to, right? So, but it's a beautiful story though, and his cartooning is also, it's great. It has a lot of personality to it. I honestly really like this this panel design because it's not like perfect, but it like works with everything. And same thing with this one. It's just good design, man. So good on you. Let's see here. Because I don't want to like show off everything, you know what I mean? Alright, so this one here. So I wanted to take it upon myself. The whole point of the project was I want to get people motivated to make comics. So it didn't matter if you were at the very bottom of the spectrum. If you sent me a comic and it was a comic and it was legible, it was readable as a comic, so on and so forth, and it was presentable, I had no problem publishing that. But again, the whole point was is I just want people to get up off their ass, draw some comics, and do something productive at the end of the day. So Andre here, he had sent in this this little story, and basically it's about like two brothers that kind of get in an argument over something kind of petty, and it gets a little too out of whack, and they just go at it. Here's the thing that I can say. So just full disclosure, so if you guys want to work with me in the future, like I'm willing to work with you guys, especially if you send me stuff and there might be something wrong with the scan, what have you, I'll bounce it back to you and I will try to help you the best that I can to improve it because I'm not going to do it for you. That's not why I'm here, but I will help you. He had sent me pages and they didn't look terrible, but definitely needed to get cleaned up in terms of the scan. I bounced it back and I was just like, hey, here's what you could do. Gave him like a reference video, so on and so forth. And then he gave it back to me and he's like, hey, thank you for giving me the advice, so on and so forth. I really appreciate it. And now here we are. And it's like, I would assume, I don't know his age, but I would assume, he's younger, just looking at the art and kind of his demeanor when we were kind of talking and so on. So again, it's like, he showed up and he gave me a comic and hey man, if you are like, middle school, however old, good on you, dude, because there's full-on professional people that are like within the ink pulp community or YouTube community, so on and so forth, that are just sitting with pages and pinups and stuff in their drawers and not doing anything with them. And you showed up with a comic. So, at the end of the day, you're better than they are because their shit's just sitting in a drawer, you know what I'm saying? So good on you, man. Okay, well, I honestly think that's probably where we're going to wrap it up there with showing that stuff off. So is what we're going to do then, and we're going to start getting into the Screentone stuff. And then after the Screentone stuff, I have a couple of comics to show off. I stopped over at my LCS yesterday and picked up some books. I shot a hunt and a haul. I did all of that yesterday. After we're done streaming here, I'm gonna sit and edit that video, and I might post it up today. More than likely, probably stick it up tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that. Just hunting, kind of going through the boxes, picked up some stuff, and I'll kind of show off some stuff that I picked up today, just for the sake of sharing it with you guys right away. But definitely check out the full video once I do get that thing put up. Just grabbing some Screentones here. So one of the things that I wanted to show or do so in my part 1 video, if you guys had seen that, there is basically I just gave out a bunch of information because my camera that I was using at the time, it just died on me in the middle of the stream, like it just stopped working. So we kind of had to pivot a little bit and move into something else. As you can see, I bought a brand new camera and this thing's fantastic. Anyhow, is what I had done in that first stream. I just gave out a lot of information, and one of the things I had talked about was a kit that DELUXE gives out, and it's called like the DELUXE Screentone kit. I think it's like 120 bucks, but it comes with like everything that you need: ink, black ink, white ink. It comes with, you know, your scalpel. Comes with like 4 or 5 different sets of Screentone. It comes with paper. And then as well, it comes with like a cutting board. It'll come with these, which I've never used, but we're going to be using these today just for the sake of, you know, saving me time and having to draw things, just because I have so much different things going on. But they come with like these practice pages, right? So you can kind of like practice doing your Screentones and everything like that. So that's what we're going to be practicing on today then. I have way more Screentones than I care to admit, but here's the thing, guys. When you start using this stuff, so as you can see, I have a lot of this, and there's probably like 6 sheets in each of these packs. You go through it way quicker than what you anticipate, because once you get like used to using it, you get a lot more comfortable with just throwing it on shit, and like you start examining more and more, like in books, you start noticing it more. The book that I recommend to look at is The Crow by James O'Barr. That is where a lot of my Screentone influence is coming from. It's kind of like all over the place, but it makes sense. Instead of basically drawing shadows or wrinkles in fabric with like ink, he's doing it with Screentone. Actually, I can show you guys real quick. Let me get this pulled up here. So this is the cover that I'm working on. I had shown this off in the Discord before I had scanned it in, and I started doing the touch up on it yesterday. So I still have a lot of work to do on it, but so you can see, this is kind of what I'm talking about here. Is instead of using ink, you know, I'm using Screentones to make the appearance for like wrinkles and stuff like that. So this is just kind of, so that's an example. And then same thing, like this moon, this is all just Screentone. So I drew that moon in the background, and then all that is a Screentone. And I honestly can probably pull this out here, and I'll show you guys which one I cut it from, so you can see. Let me go to the overhead. So this is what I cut it from. So you can see, like, all it is, it's like this weird design. And I just want to give you an example of just like the things that you guys can do with Screentones, and it really just comes down to creativity and imagination on what you can do with this stuff. I'm going to grab this. Let's grab this. So this is the same, obviously the same Screentone that I used for the moon that we just looked at. This is, as you can tell, I'm going to flip this. This says like TX, and there's kind of like a weird shape here. That was from, I had done a Public Enemy drawing at one point, and that same design I used for the background on this. So you just have to get a little creative with your things and what you can do with your texture and things like that. Same thing with this. Oh, the camera's kind of moving here. Same thing with this. So this background is just Screentone, and then I drew the site on top of it. Same thing with this. This background is Screentone. I drew the site on top of it. I drew the figure shadow on it. You just have to get creative with your Screentones. You have to kind of think outside the box. Don't use your Screentones in a generic manner. Look at your Screentones, observe them, and think, what can I do with this that hasn't been done before? And this is just kind of an example of that. So again, guys, you just have to be creative and think outside the box. And it's really going to, you know, push your art forward at the end of the day. All right, just let me readjust this camera here. All right. So one of the things that comes with the kit is this here. So this is a tone hera, or just a herobone is what it would be categorized as. If you've ever worked in printing before, or have like been in an office max, so on and so forth, or printing shop, whatever you want to say, typically these are used to like fold paper. You'll see a lot with. Usually they'll be more round on the edges and things like that, and that's what they'll use to like crease paper and things like that. Herobone is what you'll hear typically categorized as, but tone hera is just kind of a generic marketing term that Deleter uses. But the whole point of this is it's just to stamp your screen tones down to, you know, your piece of art that you're using. So let's go ahead and grab like a smaller sheet. What did I do with it? Here we go. Because I want to use the stuff that comes in the kit. Because if you guys end up getting the kit, you know, then it's just kind of like an example of such. Because if you're not already into screen tones, I think that's the best way to do it. Simply because screen tones, ladies and gentlemen, they are kind of pricey. They're not the most expensive things in the world, but the amount that you need to use, and then that to the cost, that's where it becomes expensive. It's because you just have to buy so much of it. It's more of a volume thing than it is a pricey thing, if that makes sense. You're just constantly just having to buy it. So it's like pretty much every time I've been getting paid since I've been using this, I'll buy like a pack of it, because you go through, like I said, you'll use more than you anticipate once you get comfortable using it. Like that moon that we had looked at, like that was half a sheet, and that sheet is 11 by 17, you know what I mean? So it's like you use a lot. So this one here came with the kit. So it has, the reason why I recommend the kit is because it comes with different screen tone styles. I had mentioned this in the first video, but for the sake of us being here and just kind of giving all the information, if you start working with screen tones, do yourself a favor and like make a note on your phone or log on your computer, whatever you need to do to remember this stuff. Remember these numbers. Because if you are trying to remember like which one you're using specifically and you really liked it, good fucking luck finding it again, because there are just so many different things. Like you'll type in gradient deleter screen tone and there's going to be a million things that pop up and you're never going to find it. So when you go to Google and you like slap in that number like deleter whatever JR403, odds are it'll pop up on some website, so you can pinpoint exactly what it is. And the hard thing about that is some of this stuff is only sold in the packs, so when you try to find it individually, you can't. But at least it sends you to the pack that you bought it from. So if you don't remember, because there are a lot, so it'll be like screen tone background set A, screen tone back set B, you know, screen tone background set C, so on and so forth. And it'll go like all the way to F, and then there's like 6 pages in each of those. So you're like, how the hell do you even remember that these are coming from? Yeah, Nathan, so there is a website, it's called Marker Supply. That is where I purchase a vast majority of my screen tones from. Again, it's called Marker Supply. They're based out of Nashville, and they're super fast. Like anytime I order from them, like I get my screen tones within 2 days typically, and it's just ground shipping. I think they're based out of Nashville, so depending on where you're at in the U.S., I'm in just outside of Green Bay, so it doesn't have too far to travel. So markersupply.com is where I recommend to go, and then the second website is Jet Pens, JETPENS, Jet Pens. That's where like Jim Mahfood gets all of his stuff, Sean Crystal gets all of his stuff, so on and so forth, and that's where I get like my inks, my microns, my erasers, and all that kind of stuff. They seem to be the best place to have the pricing. Their shipping's a little slow, but they for sure have the best pricing out of everyone. Their screen tone selection is pretty slim. Usually you only see the Deleter Junior ones, which this is just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, basically. The normal Deleter sheets, that's a full 11 by 17. So you can like put that on a full comic page. This is more or less to do like finer details and stuff with, if that makes sense. Yes, sir. Yeah, jet pens and marker supply is the go-to place to get screen tones. And the thing with marker supply, they sell Bleeder Juniors and they sell the full ones as well. Like I said, with jet pens, you usually only see the Deleter Junior screens. The thing that I can tell you though is you have to pay attention to the when you're buying Deleter Junior ones because they will sell them in a pack of one or they'll sell them in like a pack of six, I think it is. So just be wary of that because if you see one, you're like, oh, this is only $2. That's because there's only one in the pack. So just be aware of that. So let's go ahead and let's grab one of these pages. Find one here that'll be fun to do. I might go with this one here. Nope. But like I was saying with marker supply though, when you are looking at their screen tones, a lot of them are in variety packs, which is I think a good thing because you just get a different thing. So it'll be like gradient variety or background variety, so on and so forth. So you just get a bunch of different things. So for example, like this is something that came in the gradient variety. And when you look at this, it's like super chunky, like gradient, you know what I mean? It's like real thick and chunky. And then you look at something like this, which came out of the same pack. And this is more like a traditional gradient, right? So you can see there's like a lot of variations in what you can get in these packs. And like same thing with this, it's more of a lighter gradient. So you just get all sorts of things. Like this is a background variant one. So this is kind of like, it's hard to see under the lights, but this has like stars on it. It's the real light, so really can't tell there. But we'll look at the one underneath it, which is a little darker. So you can see like this has like stars all over it. So you can do creative things with it. Like, yeah, it's a background screen tone, but you don't have to necessarily use it as a background. Like in a lot of like manga and anime, like you don't want to talk about like Pokemon, like Jesse and James like get flung out into like the sky and then it's like bing, and you kind of get like that star sparkle. I don't know what you would call that. That's what this reminds me of. So that you can like cut that out and like use it for that or something like that. You know what I mean? So you just have to be creative with what you're doing. We're going to use the smaller sheets here. Oh, what did I do with my scalpel? Here it is. So one of the other things that you get with the kit, you'll get your Screentone, box knife, utility knife, a scalpel cutter, whatever you call it, X-Acto knife. It comes with like 8 blades, I want to say, replacement blades. And the nice thing is these are double-sided. So once this thing starts getting dull, which to be honest with you, Screentone is so thin. The best way, if you've never held Screentone or have had it before, the best way to describe it's basically Scotch tape with something that's like printed on top of it. Is I think the best way to describe it. It has like that same film feel that Scotch tape does, and it kind of crumples the same way that Scotch tape does. And it's just as thin as Scotch tape is. So when you're cutting it with a razor blade, as you can imagine, you barely have to use any pressure. So when you guys get used to it and you're practicing, that's something that you have to be aware of. You don't have to use a lot of pressure with it. When I first started using the Screentones, like I was pressing way too hard and I was cutting through the Screentone, through the backer paper, onto the piece of work. Luckily, I'm working on Bristol board, so it didn't actually like cut through the paper. But I definitely cut, way deeper than what I needed to. So, it barely takes any pressure, and I honestly just like let the weight of my hand just kind of do the work. So yeah, it's double-sided. It just comes apart. It's pretty basic. Just comes apart like that, and then you can just flip your blade over if you need to. And you just got to tighten it back up. Pretty easy. And then as well, like it says, like this end is supposed to be used to um, stamp your work down. Don't do that. Like this is hard black plastic, and when you rub this on screen tone, believe it or not, like that black residue will basically like stain the screen tone, if that makes sense. Um, so it's like grab your tone Hera, or uh, I've even in the past I've grabbed like a Posca marker. Let me what did I do with my marker? I'll show you guys. Here we go. It's a little inside baseball for you. If you're filling in a lot of black area, and you don't want to waste a lot of ink, go buy a Posca marker. They sell them in a bunch of different sizes. This is a pretty big Posca marker, as you can see. Like this thing is an inch by inch and a half. And this is what I use to ink all my backgrounds with. You'll see, I think Jim My Food uses this as well, but it's just a paint marker. That's what this is. Mitsubishi makes these. But you just shake it up, and the cool thing is that this thing will stay nice because you actually have to apply pressure to it, and this nib will go inside the pen, and then that's what forces the nib here, or you want to call it like the sponge on the end, to actually get the paint onto it. So you can get like dry marker effects and things like that with a paint marker with this. But what I was saying is I'll take this marker because it's a fat marker, and I'll put a piece of like paper towel on it like this, and I'll kind of put it on the end so that way it doesn't fuck up your artwork, and then I'll just hold it upside down like this and then stamp your artwork down with it. Because again, like the screen tone, it feels like Scotch tape, so it's glossy, so you can just kind of, you know, go over top of it real easy. Yeah, dude, the Posca marker is massive. My girlfriend bought it for me a couple months ago, and ever since, like, I've just been constantly just like buying these things and using them. They're fantastic, and they last like way longer than you anticipate. Like you can hear like how much paint is inside this thing. Like it's honestly insane. And I've gone through like a period where you know, it's like you just forget that it's there and you don't use it or whatever. And you pull it out and it's like it's super reliable. And even if it doesn't work, like you just dip it in some like alcohol or whatever, and it just brings the thing back to life. And you just start going to town with it again. One of the things that I can say though about the tone Hera that comes with that kit is these angles on this are all different. So I don't know if that's like a preference thing or what on how you want it to feel. I I do not use this side at all. This back side, these edges are like they're kind of sharp. And like I was saying, the screen tone, it's very much like Scotch tape, so it's super thin. So when you're going across your work, a lot of the times it'll catch underneath it and it'll just pull it up off the page, or it'll cut it, so on and so forth. So I use the side that has the lettering on it because this edge, it's rounded over. So it doesn't like dig underneath your work or dig into your work, as opposed to this edge. As you can see, it's more of a hard edge, as opposed to this side, it's rounded. So you can actually like get your tone knife, I guess this is what would be called, at like a good angle to stamp your work down with. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to flip this. Let's punch in some of this stuff. So let's go ahead and draw in this little kitty. This is the Deleter logo, the little cat. Let's give him some of this, because I think he's usually black. So we'll go with a darker screen tone. And typically you would want to do this under a light box. I personally do not, however. It's way easier to do it under a light box because you can see way easier, you know, what you're doing. If you're like me, and I pretty much like sit like right over top of my table, and you have like a bright light like this, you can clearly see you're straight through it. Like you can see that on the stream here. So that's not really an issue. And sometimes like in the finer details, you kind of have to like squint and look at it. At the end of the day, though, and this is one of the reasons why James Abar is like one of my influences when it comes to like screen tones. The shit doesn't have to be perfect. When I first started using it, I was too occupied on trying to get the cuts exact and making it look good, so on and so forth. And then like if I cut it around too much, like I'll go back in and I'll ink around it so you can't see it where it was black, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this stuff is so small, and when you shrink your stuff down to print, you're never going to notice it. And if anything, it's going to give your artwork more texture, in my opinion. Leave it. Just leave it. It's not worth the time and effort on sitting with your razor and like just trimming out little things. It's a waste of your time. Don't do it. And if anything, if you don't like it, when you scan in your artwork, just digitally delete it. It just saves you a lot of time that way than meticulously just sitting and just cutting shit out with the razor blade. And that's also one of the other thing is too, you can like do this and just cut out an entire square, and then you could like cut out over top of the work, and then just use your knife to like kind of just pick it off and peel it off that way. Kind of like more like a frisket than a screen tone. If you guys don't know what frisket is, just a little comic making inside baseball. That's why we're here. Frisket is basically screen tone, but it's clear. And is what you do with it is you stick it onto something to cover something up. So let's say for instance, I want to cover her entire face up because here in the background I'm going to be flinging ink on there like a blood splatter or something. So you don't want her face to get all fucked up. So you would put that frisket over top of it to kind of protect it. And then so you can just throw whatever you want on the page, let the ink dry, and then you peel the frisket off. And then that way it doesn't ruin your artwork. One of the things that I can tell you guys though is this thing is designed to stick in the back of this like this. It doesn't work and it just constantly falls off. You have to be careful because this thing is a scalpel. It's extremely sharp, and a handful of times because my drawing desk is at a pretty sharp angle. Uh, this thing, even when it's sitting on like the pencil holder, it's so like front heavy over here. The thing will like roll like this. So even if it's sitting on its own, it's still like top heavy or front heavy. I don't know what you would categorize that as. It will roll off stuff. So like watch your feet. Just make sure the cap is always on it. Let's go ahead and cut this out. Again, you don't have to use a lot of pressure. Uh, you have to be super economical with your screen tones, and this is something that I had mentioned in the first stream and something that I had mentioned earlier. The stuff isn't super expensive, but it's what makes it expensive is just the amount that you have to buy. So it's a volume thing. So you want to be aware of where you are cutting stuff off. So as you can see, I've tried to stay within like the same section of screen tone where I've been cutting things out. So then even if I have to do like littler details, like I'll try to make sure that I'm doing it from here and then I'll expand out from there. So that way I'm getting the most use out of my screen tone. If you go to eBay and you'll search up like screen tones and people selling you screen tones, like you'll see it and it'll just be like cut in the middle of the page and it's like what the fuck are you gonna do with the rest of that screen tone, because it's just like, you know what I mean. There isn't a good way to actually use it now because they just took a big hole out of the center of it. So just be economical and be aware of where you're actually cutting your stuff off. So like in this instance, you look at that, it's like perfect, and we can just use this section now, and then now like this part of the screen tone is like basically used up, and then all of like these little bits that are kind of in throughout here, we can use for like smaller details. So like the drawing that we just looked at for my cover, like the pocket on his like lab jacket and things like that, like I cut out from here and used as like the screen tone on it. Eyes, things like that. So you can keep it to do like fingernails, whatever. So just go ahead and just kind of line it up perfect to the top here. Just go ahead and cut this bad boy out. Again, you do not need a lot of pressure. And then these guidelines help out quite a bit. One of the things that I recommend to do is if you are like doing it on a bigger comic page, you obviously try to want to be a little more accurate. Grab your ruler and make these lines a little bigger because they're kind of hard to see sometimes. All right, cool. So we just cut that entire thing. So now is what you need to do. And this is where doing it under a light box really helps because you can see way easier where you cut it. But if you hold it right, you know, you can see like the reflection where you cut it. And you just have to peel it off. And sometimes you have to get your razor blade underneath it. Just hold, you know, your razor flat. Just give it a little pull so you can grab it. And it's real thin. But once you get comfortable with it, you'll get used to like dealing with it, and you'll be like, whatever, and you'll just fucking rip the stuff off. So don't be too worried about it. So then there we go. So let me cut that shape out. Let's just go ahead and stick her on. And you do have a lot of play with it as well. Until you like stamp it down on the paper, you can like take your razor and get it underneath there and kind of, you know, pry it out. I do not pry it up towards the blade. Obviously, that's going to cut it because this stuff is super thin. When you stick it underneath there, you're going to make sure that you're putting your fat end towards the screen tone to get it up from the page. That way you can wiggle it around. In some cases, I will stick this on the side so that way you can move it around like this until you kind of get it in a spot to where you want it. And then as well, when your screen tone isn't perfect like this, it gives you natural highlights. So let's go ahead and stamp this down. And when you stamp it down, the screen tone itself will get clearer and lighter. The thing to remember, when you're scanning stuff in, it's always going to darken. So when you double layer screen tones and things like that, you have to be aware of what you're putting screen tones on top of and how dark that's going to turn out. So if you're putting screen tone on top of something that's already dark, when you scan it in, it's going to make it even darker. So just be aware. So go ahead and stamp it down. Boom, there you go. Now we got a Kiggy all screen toned, and then I'll show you. So on top of the ears, I intentionally did not cut it straight. I don't know how well it's coming out through on the focus. There we go. So then he has highlights on the top of his ears. Pretty easy. So like I said, it's pretty basic on what you have to do, and you just have to get creative with stuff. So we'll put some screen tone on her hat here just to show like some different things that you can really do with it. I'll get some music going here. Let's grab like a gradient. So I had used this. My second comic, I don't care about sharing this stuff with you guys, but my second comic takes place in a dentist office of all things. So there's a lot of shit that you have to draw in a dentist office, obviously. That's what this was cut from. It's a sink. So you can kind of tell this was like the faucet. This is the base of the sink. So I screen toned to make it look like metallic. So I'd use a gradient on it to make it have like a metal look. And you're probably like, why the hell are you making a comic based in a dentist office? And this is my line of thinking here. How many comics can you name that take place in a dentist office? 0. That's the answer. So kind of my thought process behind it. That's not true, to be honest with you. A big inspiration. I think I may have put it away. I think I stuck it away. The very first issue of Beavis and Butthead #1 that they put out through Marvel back in the 90s, I'm a big fan of. And if you guys are sub to my channel or fans of my channel, you'll see that I do a series specifically covering those books. I'm 3 videos in, so if you guys haven't seen them before, you know, go back and watch them. But I basically flipped through them, just talk about Rick Parker and his lettering, so on and so forth. But a big inspiration for my comic was Beavis and Butthead #1. It takes place in a dentist office, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, how many other comics have you seen, that take place in a dentist office? Like, this is like the only example that I can think of. So what can I do on that to kind of spin it on its head? And obviously, like, you guys have seen the stuff that I'm working on. They're more like underground style outlaw comics. So you can think about the kind of things you can do in a dentist office with that. So, do what you will with that. Well, there is actually, what is it? Is it Dr. Giggles? Is that their Dark Horse? He was a dentist, right? Is that what it is? And they made some like shitty movie in like the 90s, I think. That's what it's called, Dr. Giggles. I think he may have been a dentist, but I don't remember. Just let me take a drink here quick. Alright, so this is something that I get on as well when I'm looking at comics, is be aware where your light source is coming from. There is a Powerpuff Girls comics. I'm a big fan of the Powerpuff Girls, to where Kat Staggs drew the issue. She's a good cartoonist, and there's nothing wrong with it. But there was a page in this comic to where there was light coming in through like one direction, and then there were like reflections of stuff coming off of like where the light was not coming from, you know what I mean? So like shadows and things like that were being casted that didn't make sense, because like your sun is over here, so like why is there a shadow going in this direction? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And that's what was going on in that page, and I don't remember what video it was, but I flipped through it in one of my videos, and I went off on it and was like, okay, we have to talk about like light sources, where it's coming from. So when you're doing your screen tones, again, you're like using it as shading or whatever it might be aware of where your light source is coming from. So let's just say, because obviously we don't know, this is just like a practice page, but for the sake of argument, let's just say that the light source is coming down from this way, right? So it's going to be brighter over here and then darker going down this way, because that's why there's a darker shadow here. So the sun is more hitting, from this direction, coming down onto here. So you would want to grab your gradient screen tone and angle it in a way to where like this one would run like this. So you can see that it goes from light to dark. I'll kind of hold it up into the camera so you can see it better. But it goes from pretty light to a pretty dark gray. And then we'll just run it. One of the things, while we're sitting here kind of angling this down, that I can recommend, though, when you guys are scanning in your screen tones, is make sure that you're scanning your pages into color, or it's going to completely smash out your screen tones when you scan it in. So scan it in color, and then when it's scanned in color, when you go to save it as a grayscale. And then it'll convert it, because if you scan it as a grayscale, it's hard to describe, but it just like makes your screen tone just like look super wonky. It'll make them look blocky, so on and so forth. So it ain't right. Scan it in color, and then when you save it as a grayscale, and then drop it into your Photoshop, your Krita, Procreate, wherever the hell you're using, and then touch it up your scan from there, adjust your levels, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and cut this bad boy out. I guess we'll angle it like this so it's more economical. Saved ourselves a cut there because it was already done. So there we go. Let's go ahead and peel this off. Stick it on. And like I said, sometimes it's like easier to kind of stick it on the end of your knife and angle it that way. But we're just here, just chilling. Don't need to be perfect. There we go. And again, I just recommend not to cut it like perfect. So you can see that I try to make it a little jagged on purpose just to give it like natural highlights on stuff. So that's just something that I've seen like James O'Barr doing. You know what? Hold on a second. I'm gonna go grab my Crow comics. Give me a second, and you guys will still be able to hear me while I'm walking through the my house here to grab my books, because technology and wireless microphones and all that good stuff. Here it is. All right. So James O'Barr, huge influence on me. If you guys have never read The Crow, go read it. Go do yourself a favor and read it. This is like one of those things that is just gonna like blow your mind when you see it. This version of the book is kind of at a point of contention for a lot of Crow fans, because this is the original Crow run collected, but it is in the sequence that the story kind of was told sequentially, but not how it was released. So it's like, for instance, like, oh, it starts with issue 0, then it has like issue 5, and then issue 1, so on and so forth, because like they did flashbacks, so on and whatnot. So in this book, they basically took all that stuff and put all the flashbacks and everything like in the front of the book to make it flow better as a story, so it doesn't seem as like confusing. And of course, like a bunch of Crow fans were like, "Wow, why would you collect it like that? That's not how it was released," and blah blah blah. It's like get over your fucking self, right? It's like just appreciate it for what it is and be happy that it's readily available. Because if you guys are single issue collectors like myself, the Crow books, they ain't cheap, especially the ones that came out through Caliber, and even to some extent like the kitchen sink ones. Like, they're not cheap. So, we're talking $60 an issue, if not more than that. But you can tell though, like, this is a later issue, and then this was like a more early one. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is the shit that I love. It's like, look at this, man. So let's take a look here, and I'm going to show you guys an example of like some screen tones. So like I'm going to shut this off here real quick so it doesn't reflect. I don't know how well it's going to come out through the stream. Come on, focus. You can do it. Focus. There we go. That entire background is just one screen tone. So just all of this is all just screen tone. It's just the same one. And he cut it out around the character. Same thing over here. And his shading is just horizontal. Probably like used like a hunt or something like that. It's very thin, definitely scratchy. And like here, like the use of the screen tone on his face, and this is like a big example of what I'm talking about, is like all this and his eyes and like this shadow right here, that is all screen tone. And as you can see, like, it's not perfect. It's kind of cut, jagged, and all fucked up looking. That's just the way that you have to do things sometimes. And like, same thing over here. He inked, and then as well has screen tone, and that's something that I will do, is I'll screen tone, and then I'll draw on top of it, fling ink on top of it. Like I had mentioned earlier, it has that same film feel as like a Scotch tape or whatever. So when you're putting ink on top of it, it takes forever to dry because you're just throwing liquid on top of a plastic, basically. So the thing that I recommend to do, and you have to be very careful when you do this is something that I learned from Jim Lee. I study a lot of different people, so I sat and studied Jim Lee for like 2 weeks straight, and just kind of like, not really his drawing, but just like different techniques that he's using, so on and so forth. I was seeing him flicking ink just on top of a normal comic page. So this is where I got it from, and it still sticks with Screentone. However, with the Screentone, you have to be very careful because since it is like a plasticky material and it is like a slicker material, when you do this technique, it'll smear it. So you kind of have to be careful. So when you get comfortable with doing it, you know, first kind of do it lighter, and then when you obviously when you're comfortable with it, just do what you got to do to get it done. But basically, is what you'd want to do is, so like you have your ink or whatever, right? And you flick it onto your page, onto your Screentone. Get a piece of paper towel or what have you. You know, fold it up into a good section to where it's not, when you're pressing down on it, it's not going to smear, and just pat your paper with it. And it'll clean up it'll dry up your ink way faster. And then again, you have to be careful with the Screentone, especially because if you're drawing on top of it and you do that, and then you stamp it somewhere else, you're probably going to, like, you know, leave the residue from the previous thing onto another section. So I always will just like move the paper towel around and just kind of do that if I need to. More often than not, if I know that I'm drawing on top of Screentone, that's like toward the very end of the drawing, so that's usually like at the finishing stage. So when I'm like throwing ink or whatever on top of my stuff, I'll just leave it sit there and for a couple of hours or whatever, and you can just look at the screen. You can just look your Screentone at the ink that's sitting on top of it to see if it's wet or not. So it's pretty easy to tell. If it still has like that sheen to it, you're like, all right, it's still kind of wet. So I'm not gonna mess with it. So you can just do different things there. Let's Screentone the old girl's face here. Let's do some more gradient stuff, 'cause I think that'll be kind of fun. Let's just use the same one, just for the sake of the way that this drawing is placed. So is what I want to do here, probably run it this way, because her hat, right, it's going to cast a shadow down. So run it like this to where it gets darker up towards her face. Try to get it in a spot to where we can save as much Screentone as possible. I think that might be the best spot to do it, is like right here. Maybe not, because I don't think we're going to be able to get her entire face. Well, maybe, because that's hair. Yeah, we can get this. That's good enough. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's cut this out. This is what I do sometimes, is I'll just peel this up. Come on. And then I'll just stick it over here, so that way I can use it for something else later. Alright, so her hair is going to be a little tricky, but we'll see what we can do here. And again, it doesn't have to be like perfect, and if you have to, you can always go back and touch it up digitally, which I typically don't recommend to fuck with your artwork digitally. Like, just do it by hand, but you know, You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes to actually make it look good. Cut out her eyeballs. Oh, Screentone kind of came up there. How's everybody liking the stream so far, though? I think it's going pretty good. Go ahead and take your eyeball out. Oh, you piece of garbage. So you can see sometimes, like, it's super time consuming to get this stuff done, but it's one of my more fun things or enjoyable things that I like about making comics is doing the Screentone section. It's very, like, you know what I mean, like when you're sitting at your board and you're just kind of drawing, you get in, like, that flow state. I think I get more into that flow state when I'm doing Screentones, because you just have, like, a lot of freedom, like with your Screentones, just kind of like, I'm just going to throw it down and just see what it looks like and just kind of fuck with it, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of creativity comes out when I'm messing with Screentones. Okay, well, let's see what we can do here. That's fucking terrifying. I cut some of this really thin, so hopefully, yeah, this needs cut right here. That just looks terrifying. Oh, come on. Try to get it lined up. And again, I didn't cut it perfect. There we go, that's good. I need to get this. Probably just gonna have to touch that eyeball up over there on that side. And this is something that I would touch up because like that should be white, right? I did cut this, but it just didn't come off. Come on. That's like one of the things that I recommend doing. I kind of showed that off earlier, but when you're pulling something up and it's real small, get it like in between you and the blade, and hold your blade down and just kind of push your finger down on it so you can pull it up off the page. Alright, that's good enough. Let's go ahead and grab our... It is very rewarding, Nathan. And it's like, it's one of those things that it really changes like your artwork a lot. Like I strictly worked in black and white for like the longest time, and when I first started messing with Screentones, I was like, holy shit, it like changes everything. And when you start getting comfortable with using them, it'll completely change what you're doing. So some of this we did cut, but it did not come with the rest of the drawing because, again, this stuff's so thin, sometimes it's not going to come with the rest of what you cut. So, where did this? Was it here? No.
What we do here is go back.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think that looks fine because it's what I would do personally. If like I was drawing this, I would just black out the rest of that and just be done with it. That looks pretty good. Let me have a speech bubble here. One of the things that I've been doing with my speech bubbles, let's see if I can grab a page here. Oh. So this is like something I've been doing with my speech bubbles. I've been putting screen tones for my speech bubbles, so when they're up against like a white background, I've been doing that for contrast. Instead of like having white on white, just screen tone that and it looks cool. But yes, I'll give you a little sneak peek there, but this is a thing from my dentist office. Where is this asshole? I'm sick of waiting. Dentist taking his damn time. It's like we've all been there, like at the doctor's office or whatever, and it's like my appointment was at 10 o'clock, and it's 10:30, and this motherfucker still isn't in the exam room yet. All right. I mean, I really don't think that we need to really show off anymore. I think you guys kind of get the gist of it, right? We'll kind of recap, and then we'll flip over into comics mode, and I'll kind of just show off a couple of things, and then, like I said, I'll have a video up either later today or at some point tomorrow, probably, for like the actual hunt and haul process. But recap. Markersupply.com, Jet Pens is where I recommend to go to get screen tones, things like that. They seem to have, a Jet Pen seems to have the, not the best selection, but the best prices. And then Marker Supply, they sell full sheets, so it's a little more expensive, but they have way more variety. So that's where typically I'd recommend to go. Again, if you're going to be purchasing screen tones in general and you don't have any of this stuff, buy one of those deleter kits. The deleter kit, there's like the special deluxe one, and there's just like the deluxe kit. The differences between the two is like the special deluxe will come with like ink, it comes with like a pen nib, with like 3 different nibs, so on and so forth. So if you already don't have anything to actually like do nib with, and I'll show it to you. I'll just grab some random crap that comes with that kit. So obviously we showed off the sample pages that you can like practice with. It comes with like 5 different screen tones. It'll come with deleter manga markers, brushes, which I use pretty often. This one's fucked. Like I'm really rough with this brush. You can see things split and it's just jacked. The rest of them I try to take really good care of. They are cheaper brushes, but if you take care of them, these things will actually last a fairly long time. This one here I definitely get the most use out of it, as you can see, is what I recommend doing. This is something that I picked up from Sean Crystal to keep your tips nice and crisp. Stick them in your mouth and get a good little bit of spit on them, and just kind of, you know, create a cone with your lips, and put your cover on there, and your spit will harden and it'll keep it nice and crisp for you. The next time you go to use it, you'll have a nice sharp edge for your brush. So just a little tip for you guys. So yeah, it'll come with like different sized brushes, so like some super small ones and larger ones. So if you already don't have brushes, this is again a good way to kind of get into using them. They're not the cheapest brushes, and they're not the most expensive brushes. They're kind of a good middle of the road. Use them for a year or 6 months or whatever, and then, you know, if you like them, buy them again, upgrade them, whatever. The kit will also come with, you know, just a basic ruler. Comes with the cutting board, the Harrowbone, the tone knife. It'll come with a French curve. So if you're not using curves or anything like that, a French curve is a good way to do that. I was an engineer in the Marine Corps, So I used a lot of French curves and things like that when I was drawing blueprints, buildings, so on and so forth. So that's why a lot of my art aesthetic is very boxy, because of just drawing a lot of military drawings. This just is what it is. It just came into my style, I guess. But if you never used a French curve, go buy one. It'll really change up your game, and just like look up how to use a French curve. I wouldn't look to see like from an artist how to use a French curve. Look at an architect on how to use a French curve, because like they'll use it to like paths for walkways and things like that, and you get more of like a practical like, oh, I understand how to use a French curve, rather than like doing fancy art stuff with it. You know what I mean? It's more of like the practical thing with the actual French curve. I don't have a speedball, but I use this. This is the Deleter G pen. This thing is super popular. A lot of pros use it, and it's something that comes in the kit. So again, if you guys don't have one of those kits, I would just recommend to just, or if you don't have Screentones, I would just buy one of the kits. And even then, I have had Screentones before, and I've gone ahead and purchased the kit, even when I've already had this stuff, because at the price that you're getting the Screentones, there's like 5 packs in there, and then you're getting like a stapler, you're getting ink, you're getting the nibs, you're getting this, you're getting the cutting board, so on and so forth. The bang for your buck is way higher than just buying Screentones in and of itself. So once you kind of get used to buying Screentones or whatever, or say you already are into Screentones, the kit is still a good way to go, because you're getting like backup Screentones, you're getting backup nibs, so on and so forth. So the thing that it comes with, let me see here. So I have these different nibs. This is the one that I've been using the most. I can't remember which one this is. Let's see. I can't read that. I think it says, because they label them like G, so on and so forth. So this is a Nico nib. This is the G, which I think this is like the most popular one that people use, from my understanding. I think this is the one. I use this guy here for the most part, and I really don't lay down black inks with it. For the majority of the time when I'm using this, I am using it with white ink, white opaque ink, to touch up stuff with. So instead of like using a whiteout pen or like a correction fluid pen or whatever, I have a thing of Deleter white ink. And the thing with Deleter ink you have to be aware of is that they, I just noticed this, that they have different styles. So they're numbered like 1 through 5, I want to say. And on Marker Supply, and I think on Jet Pens, like anywhere you can buy Deleter ink, like they'll have like a graph showing you like, here's what this number ink offers, here's what this one offers, because they do different things, if that makes sense. Hey, what's up, drink water? What the hell was I saying now? That's terrible, I forget. Oh yeah, so I was talking about the inks. So their inks do different things. I think the number 2 ink is like the most popular one. That is going to be archival ink, and then as well it's going to be water resistant, waterproof. The other inks are not water resistant or waterproof. So if you're going to be doing other stuff on top of that, like in terms of wet media, just be aware it's going to run or bleed onto your other stuff. So I use this, and one of the things that I recommend to do if you are going to be using black ink, don't use Deleter ink, the Bombay, like Dr. Bombay and stuff like that, the Doc Martin stuff. I think that in my opinion it's too thin. If you buy like Higgins Black Magic, so I'll show you. I use 2 different inks most of the time. So this is my main go-to is Higgins Black Magic. It's like the blackest ink I've ever seen. It has kind of a gloss to it, so it's not like a satin. I started to use this ink. Rob Liefeld had said that this was like his go-to ink that he uses simply because it's just so black, and this stuff has like a super distinct smell. It's hard to describe, and you kind of, when you start getting used to it, like when you're working out in comics, like you just like think about that smell, right? It's kind of like that sensation, like it gets you in the mood to kind of like make comics because of like the way that the ink smells. It's weird, but you guys probably know what I'm talking about. And then this is going to be Doc Martens Bombay ink. This was ink that my favorite artist uses, Steve Rude, which when you look at my work, you're like, wait, Steve Rude's your favorite artist? That makes 0 sense. Yeah, I know. But he does a lot of like watercolor, ink wash, so on and so forth. So this is kind of like his go-to ink brand because it is, that's the best way to describe it. It's very washy. So when you put this down, it's not like super black. It's more of like a super darker gray. And then you kind of have to do multiple passes to make it like darker. So you definitely have a lot more play in what you can do with your tones as opposed to this where it's just like, it's black and that's all you're getting, baby. So you can do different things with this. This ink here I will put into like my Pentel parallel pens because is what I was getting at is the Higgins Black Magic, this shit is super thick. So I will use it specifically for like throwing ink down on my pages with like a toothbrush or using it on this because it'll stick real good to the nib. As opposed to this, it just runs off the nib real easy because the ink is thinner. So do what you will with that information. It's just stuff that I found in passing. One of the other things that I recommend doing as well is rough up the edges a little bit of your nibs so it can hold ink a little better. Get a little tiny piece of sandpaper, rub it, or you can take a lighter to it as well. And it'll take the like glossy finish off the metal and it'll let it grip a little easier so you can kind of see that the end of the nib has been kind of burned a little bit. I had done that, so just a little tip. Go put this stuff back here. Okay, and then like I said, safety's first, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you got your cap on your shit, because like I was saying earlier, if you're just now joining the stream, this thing is very top heavy towards this end, because obviously it has all the metal there. This thing will just roll off your desk all the time, so make sure your cap is on it, because there's been a handful of times where this cap has not been on it, and it's almost hit my foot, and that would be a bad day for everyone, so safety first, everyone. Gonna move this over here, and then we're gonna bounce into some comic mode in terms of just looking at some stuff real quick. Like I said, I'm going to be putting up a video at some point, either today or tomorrow. I shot everything yesterday and I started editing it last night, but editing is super time consuming, so this is something I picked up yesterday. Might have to shut this off. This is something that I picked up yesterday. This is Crack-a-Boom. It's basically an anthology book. I had picked it up because it had Mr. Monster on it. I'm a big fan of Mr. Monster, you know, the Dark Horse stuff, so on and so forth. Big Caliber Comics guy. Obviously, we were just looking at The Crow. That's where it was originally published. Caliber was a publisher based out of Detroit. I can't believe this thing was in a dollar bin. When I opened this up, like you're looking at this cover and you're kind of like, okay, it just kind of looks like generic comic book stuff, kind of. Nah. There's more than that going on in here. And when I opened this thing up last night, I was like, my eyes went like, just look at this. Not what you would expect, right? Just some wild stuff in here. Yeah, dude, I could not believe like this was in a dollar bin. And I got 2 issues. Number 1 and number 2 were both, and they're just crazy art. I'm like, when I saw it, I was like, oh boy. And I was like, oh, it's an anthology. And as you guys know, love my anthologies. So once I saw this, I was all down for that, man. It's like you get your different varieties in here, and it just so good. Like this drawing is crazy good. Let's take a look here and see who did this one. Jim Stokes? Is that what it says his name is? Kind of a weird font, but I think that's what it says. Jim Stokes. But yeah, super cool book though. Fun stuff. Like I said, I picked up issue number 2 of it as well, because that was also in the dollar bin, like right beside it. So I grabbed both of those right away. Sometimes you get some steals in those dollar bins, man. You just gotta dig for them. A lot of times when you go into comic shops, like they're 50-cent bins, dollar bins, so on and so forth, they're not organized like at all. They're just all over the place. So you just have to actually dig, man, and see what you could find. Let's grab stuff that I can get from my pull box here, so we don't have to keep pulling stuff out of a bag and board. So if you guys haven't read the series before, but there is a series that Image had put out before called Bitter Root. They just have a new series that had just started, the next movement. This is the first issue. It had just come out recently. Yeah, you're not wrong, Derek. It's like he's about to go do the Daytona 500. Jim Stokes in the Home Depot vehicle, making a left turn. But yeah, it's a super cool book. Like the reason why I like Bitter Root so much is really the art aesthetic. I'm a big fan of like that 70s funk. I don't know how else you'd categorize it as, but you know what I mean, like that sort of look. And that's exactly what's going on here in this book. And there were some super strong drawings in here. Usually I'm not like a fan of like over digital stuff, which some of this is, but there's still a lot of personality going on in the drawings. So if you've never have seen the original Bitter Root before, I'd go back and look at it. Maybe think about adding the newer books to your series, to your pull box if you do like it. See what you guys can find. But like I said, I recommend Bitter Root. It's good stuff. Yeah, dude, Sanford Greens, good stuff. All right, You'll Do Bad Things. So I had seen this, I want to say in like an ad. Maybe it was in a Savage Dragon. There was an ad for this. It was a recent Image book. It had to have been Savage Dragon, but I had seen like this dude. He has like an S&M mask on. It reminds me, if you ever played like No More Heroes before, it reminds me of the I can't remember what the hell his name is now, but the character is like wearing the S&M mask in that game. That's what it reminded me of. But I got a lot of like Red Room vibes off of this. You know what I mean? So when you flip it open, if you see a comic and they're drawing knives like this is like Ben Mara combat knife. You know some shit's gonna go down in this. I was pretty blown away by like the art direction and like especially the coloring in this book. It's very unique. That's for sure. One of the things that I did point out there that kind of bothered me, and I again, I looked at this yesterday, so is just kind of the redundant lettering, which they do a lot in this book, and I think that's just like an art choice on their end. I don't know if I like it, but the design of this book is so good though. Like how this looks like a like a Microsoft Word document. And they do a lot of cool things in terms of like the actual design. So let's just flip to a page here so I can show you. So then they do things like this, where in their speech bubbles and whatnot, the camera will focus here, it looks like it's a Word document. So you can see how it has like the red line underneath it, like it wants to correct it because he's like sitting at his computer typing. So it's like showing what he's typing in like the actual like screenshot of the Word document. That's pretty cool. I've never seen that before, so I thought that was like a pretty interesting idea. And then of course, it's like nothing really graphic happens in this first issue, but you get to the back, it's like, look at this. So it's like, hey man, if this is what's going to be going on in this comic, like I'm down for that. I was like, this is some outlaw shit right here. So you'll do bad things. I haven't had a chance to read this yet, but just in a first flip through, like this looks incredible. Cyberpunk 2077 Psycho Squad. I've never read the previous Cyberpunk books that they've put out in the past. I've played the shit out of the game, and I've played the shit out of Phantom Liberty, the expansion that had come out after the fact. So I picked this up just purely based off of that. I was flipping through it in the comic shop, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll grab this and see what it's about. I understand like Dark Horse is in a particular situation currently, as in like a lot of comic companies are. When I picked this book up off the rack, I was dumbfounded at how cheap it felt. Like, this paper is so thin, even like the cover on the outside. I had made the joke in my video when I recorded it yesterday that I'm surprised this isn't like vellum paper, tracing paper, and like see-through, because I'm not even joking, like that's how thin it feels. And if you hold it up to the light, like you can see straight through it. It's honestly, it's insane like how thin this paper is and how cheap this book actually feels. It has nothing to do with the work. I had read this entire thing yesterday. It's honestly, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of good things that's going on. Like there's some weak ass backgrounds that are going on, like some hack drawings to where they're not drawing anything and they're just coloring. That happens a lot in this book for sure, and I think purely because if you're drawing backgrounds in a cyberpunk comic, like you're going to be there all fucking day, because it's like every scene is like a Blade Runner shot, or like a shot of Akira. It's like, you know how long it took a Tone to draw the cyberpunk buildings, and it's like, they ain't got time for that in American comics. They got a month and they got to get this book out. So I get it. Every drawing can't be super detailed, but it's just something that I noticed that in the world of cyberpunk, you know, you think of like these huge city landscapes with like, you know, billboards and neon and all that everywhere. It's kind of missing from this. So just do be aware of that if that's something that you're interested in. But this was something that I thought was really cool. It's like this dude just like chomps down on a fucking grenade and like blows his own ass off. Pretty good stuff. But yeah, this, like the story and the art in it, it's fine. Just like I said, it's just like this comic. It feels cheap. Like if you've ever like got like one of like Todd McFarlane's like Page Puncher comics, or something like that, like come free with the toys, you know how it's like that cheap, glossy, just thin ass paper. It's exactly what this feels like. That's the best way to describe it. Powerpuff Girls. Love me some Powerpuff Girls. Craig McCracken is like a pretty big influence on me. He's one of the first dudes when I first started like cartooning that I was really studying and taking an appreciation of, and it's because I was going through a phase of trying to find people that had very unique art styles, but with very simple, you know, drawings. So I was like, how do you do that? So, you know, I was looking at like Hanna-Barbera, like Alex Toth and things like that. Obviously, Toth is a little more realistic in his drawings. They're still cartoony, but he still has like a lot more going on than like what's going on here. Obviously, this is more cartoony. So I was just doing a lot of studying of Powerpuff Girls. And if you guys have seen me on like Discord before, on like the Ink Pulp, I've posted a Powerpuff Girls drawing that I did recently. But these comics are fantastic. If you're not picking up these Powerpuff Girls comics that Dynamite's putting out, again, I'm a big fan of the show, and I think that they do a very good job in relaying the show into the comic. Some you know, things fall apart there, where like the comic might not be as good as the show, or the show not be good as the comic, so on and so forth. I think it kind of pairs very well together. These things have to be flying off the shelves because they do specials for these for literally every fucking holiday. Oh, like they put out a Valentine's Day special for this comic. They put out like a winter comic. They put out a Halloween comic for this. They put out a Christmas comic. Like every holiday, like they had a one shot for it. So like this thing has to be flying off the shelves because there's no way a comic company is gonna make that many issues of something if it wasn't popular. So again, I wouldn't sleep on it. And one of the cooler things about these Powerpuff Girls comics is they have like a team of people. It's like Cat Staggs, and then you have like Dybert, and so forth. There's like 3 or 4 different like artists that are kind of working on these books, and they flip flop. So it's like one issue will be one person, one issue will be the next person, and then it kind of goes like that. So you're getting like different varieties of art style within like a comic, like within the Powerpuff Girls. So not every single issue looks at Craig McCracken's art, which I would say like this is more influenced by Craig McCracken. But if you look at like Cat Stag, so on and so forth, it's definitely a lot more like gritty, and the art style is way different. So you do get that. My closest comparison would be like the Simpsons comics, to where, you know, Bill Morrison draws it more or less like Matt Groening. But when you start getting into like your Treehouse of Horrors and stuff like that, it's basically The Simpsons, but in just different art aesthetics, because they get different artists to kind of come in and make those stories. So that's my like closest comparison to that. Is they still keep it into the theme of the Powerpuff Girls, but it's like, hey, maybe like a Scotty Young would come in and like draw a Powerpuff Girls comic, like right? He would be a good guy to do that. So that's kind of like what they're doing here, if that makes sense. He's kind of have like a big collection of people cranking out different books, so you get a lot of variety. On the topic of Dynamite, get a little Space Ghost. Take a drink here. So this was my comic series of the year last year. Like, of all things, a Space Ghost comic brought a tear in my eye. I want to say it was issue 5. It may have been issue 6. But basically some heavy shit goes down, man. It's like, why do I have like a tear in my eye for a Space Ghost comic of all things? The art in it is just top notch. The story in it is top notch. The design is top notch. The layouts are top notch. I think they announced that they're only going to be doing 13 issues. I think that's the case. I could be wrong. I think that that's what they had announced, that they're stopping at 13. They started up Future Quest because Johnny Quest is the other series of Dynamite that I've been collecting. I think they're done with that now, or about to be done with it. So they're going to be doing Future Quest, which is like Space Ghost and Johnny Quest kind of mixed, which that's a series that DC put out in the past. Now it's going to be like Dynamite's going to be cranking out that series. So it's like I said, Space Ghost and Johnny Quest put together. 2 of my favorite franchises from Hanna-Barbera. So it's like, hell yeah, man. If you guys don't know Johnny Quest or don't know who Doug Wildey is, go do yourself a favor. And I had done, it's the very first video I'd put out. So keep in mind, like the editing and stuff is kind of wonky, but just to see the comic itself, I had done a Steve Rude video 6 months ago, 7 months ago or so now. And I show off a lot of those Johnny Quest comics because he had worked on a lot of them from the one that Kamiko had put out in the 80s. But Doug Wildey, the creator of Johnny Quest, the dude is like one of the best illustrators ever, and he was a big influence on Steve Rude. He had done the comic issues for Johnny Quest Classics through Comico. That was a re-release. They weren't re-releases, but they were comics of famous episodes. I think they only made 3 of the comics and they stopped. So there's only 3 of them. And they're just like the big tentpole Johnny Quest, the original series. I think it only lasted for a season. But it's like the big vulture, the giant vulture episode. That's the very first comic, and then like the frog people. That's the second one. But Doug Wildey is doing all the illustration. If you guys have never seen Doug Wildey's like art, dude, it's fucking nuts. Like, there isn't somebody on the planet that draws a gun better than Doug Wildey. And like I said, I look at those comics. There's a Steve Rude video that I did look back in October. So if you guys want to check that out, I'd look at that. But he's insane. And he had done a Western comic called Rio. Fantastic. Like, could not recommend that enough. And it's like a weird, obscure book that not a lot of people are aware of. It's not super expensive either. And again, it's called Rio. It's just like a cowboy Western comic, but his art style, it's like, it's photorealistic, but he's still like using watercolor. So think like your Rockwell's and so on and so forth, like that kind of like look to it, very like 40s, 50s sort of illustration look. It's great shit. Highly recommend it. So Doug Wildey. But anyways, this Space Ghost comics, like I was saying, it was my comic of the year last year. So if you guys are sleeping on it, be sure to not be sleeping on it and wake up, pay attention. And they put out a paperback for this. I want to say it was like November time frame where they collected the first 7 issues. So I'm gonna imagine that they're gonna be doing 2 paperbacks, and that's what they're gonna call it. The art aesthetic in this book, the best way that I can describe it is like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, because it's very like overexposed, lens flare-y in the background. Get some background music going here again. I don't know how I feel about this Captain Planet design, though. It kind of bothers me. I'm bringing it in closer to the camera. But yeah, his whole beard aesthetic, I do not like that. And like this weird like rock pauldron thing going on. Not a fan. I'm a 90s kid through and through. And I can tell you that like Captain Planet was obviously something that I grew up with and really liking. I don't know what the hell this design is. This is like some Chad, like some Ultra Chad shit. You know what I mean? Like, like that meme. So that's what it reminds me of, anyways, when I see it. But you can kind of tell though what I mean when I say like J.J. Abrams. Like, look how exposed it is. Like how white it is. You know what I mean? It's like the exposure level is like high on everything. And there are lens flares literally everywhere possible, just like the J.J. Abrams movies. But dude, like I was saying, there's some heavy shit that happens like the mid issues. It's like 5 or 6. I can't remember the exact number. I really don't want to spoil it, but it's basically it's kind of like it's one of those things where it's like obviously a lot of stories have touched on this in comics, like it isn't anything new, but it's kind of like that whole thing of like grappling on being a superhero. It's kind of like that sort of thing, like are we the bad guys? It's kind of like that kind of like feel to it. So it's kind of interesting that you're getting that in a Space Ghost comic. You know what I mean? It's like it makes you think about things a little bit, like maybe we're the baddies, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of that themes, and like I said, like it gets pretty heavy, like with their themes in like issue 5 or 6. So you gotta start at 1 to get the fill-in issues, and this is one of those things. It's like you have to read it to really get an understanding, and it's some deep shit, man. It isn't a Space Ghost comic, so can't recommend it enough. I've been pounding the pavement for that Space Ghost Dynamite comic, so go buy it, folks. All right, so I picked up a thing of back issue. I pick up back issues, and I pick up your Kirby collectors and whatnot. Don Simpson is a big influence of mine. He's my favorite letterer, just period. I talk to Don every once in a while. My first mentor that I ever had, his name is Ray Farabach. I'm not studying underneath him currently, but when I was, I was taking courses and classes with him, and kind of took me underneath his wing a little bit. He was the art director at Kitchen Sink Comics from like the mid 80s until they closed up their doors. So he was there for like 14, 15 years roughly. yeah, dude, Coast to Coast is one of the best shows. Now we're on the topic of, I'll keep talking about my mentor here in a second, but we're on the topic of Space Ghost. I put out a mask video 2 weeks-ish or so ago, kind of like a mask retrospective video. There is a Space Ghost interview on this mask VHS, and that's the reason why I own this, is because like that's how hardcore of like a Space Ghost guy I am. I have like shitloads of Space Ghost stuff in my boxes too, but there is a Jim Carrey Space Ghost Coast to Coast interview. They never aired, and they did it specifically for the VHS. And so like at the end of the credits, there's like a Space Ghost Coast to Coast episode on this, and it's with Jim Carrey. It's like, okay, you can see it on YouTube, obviously, like it's out there, but that's yeah. So you've seen it. It's just one of those things that you have to, you just kind of have to see. But yeah, I'm like, that's how deep I am on the rabbit hole on Space Ghost. That it's like I bought a mask VHS to have that. Oh, what are you gonna do? So anyways, Ray Farabach, like I said, he was my very first like mentor that I ever had. He was the art director at Kitchen Sink for like 14-15 years. So obviously Kitchen Sink Comics is like pretty important in the grand scheme of things in the world of comics. Independent comic book company from here in Wisconsin. So you know, they put out everything from like Will Eisner reprints, Megaton Man, you know, they did our Crumb stuff, basically anything. Like Kitchen Sink, they printed all of it, and that's literally kind of like where the name comes from, because it's like, you know, throw everything in there in the kitchen sink. It's kind of the pun on it. Dennis Kitchen was the runner or the owner of the publisher of Kitchen Sink, I guess is the way to look at that. But yeah, so my first mentor, he was the art director there. So obviously Don Simpson, if you guys don't know anything about Kitchen Sink, so again, I'm in Wisconsin, that's where I'm from here, so it's like, that's just kind of like something that's kind of like in the DNA. They had like a compound down in Madison, and when I say like a compound, that's exactly what it was like a warehouse from my understanding, and that's where, you know, they printed their stuff, got it sent out, and all that kind of crap. But their staff artists like lived there. It's like Don Simpson lived there, my mentor Ray lived there, Dennis Kitchen lived there, so on and so forth. So like these dudes like lived together in this warehouse making comics. So they're pretty close is what I'm getting at. So he, you know, put in, I don't know if you like, I want to say put in a word for me or what have you, but anyways, it's like now I have a connection to Don Simpson, and like I said, he's like one of my all-time favorites, and it's like now I have like a relationship with Don in a way, and that just fucking blows my mind. So it's like, for those of you out there that, you know, are cartoonists, it's like you have to network. That is like the most important thing in doing it in cartooning, especially in like getting a job, because if people don't know who you are, they don't care, and you have to market yourself and put yourself out there and do all of the footwork, because nobody else is going to do it for you. There are two types of dogs in the world, right? There are ones that bite, and there are ones that do not bite. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the one where you have kids pulling on your tail all fucking day and telling you, hey, go do this, go do that, you know, get your nose out of that, blah, 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 blah. Or do you want to be the dog when some dumbass kid pulls on your tail, you're going to turn around and bite them and say, nope, this is who I am, get away from me. You know what I mean? So I know that's not like the best analogy in the world, but as what I'm trying to say is, it's like, you have to have that drive, that bite to actually go out and do things and make things happen, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Who wakes up every day and thinks to themselves, what can I do to make Sam's day the best day possible? Fucking nobody. That's you. You are that person. So you have to take it upon yourself to make sure that, hey, I'm going to get up, I'm going to be productive. Even if it's small things like, oh, I'm just going to do a little bit of edits on my page, or I'm going to go on here and post on Discord and show off some art, send off some emails, you know, whatever. Like, I hate using the term hustle, but that's kind of what it is. It's like, you just have to hit the grind. Like, you have to get it, and you can't stop. You just have to keep going. Because if you do stop, people forget, people stop caring. And again, networking is like the most important thing you're going to do in comics. So getting involved in anthologies, getting your name out there, doing that, you know, what you name it. It's like that's the way to do it, folks. So stay productive. So Don is one of those dudes that we email back and forth, and he gives me a lot of professional advice and stuff like that. So I'm going to be tabling at, yeah, exactly, Nathan. You gotta keep it going, baby. Me and Don both are going to be at EDP Con. I'm going to be tabling there, and he's going to be there as well. And we've kind of talked about that a little bit, and I'm, you know, super excited to finally meet him in person and shoot the shit with him and everything like that. I hope all the other cartoonists are ready to deal with me there, because I'm going to talk everybody's ear off and like get as much information as possible and share with everyone, right? Because like that's what we should be doing at the end of the day. Like, give me all the goodies, all that good stuff, and all the nitty gritty crap about comics, you know, that we care about here anyways. So I'm gonna, you know, like Jim Rugg's gonna be in the room. It's like I email back and forth with Jim every once in a while. You know, we'll definitely get some tips from him. I'm definitely gonna be talking to Don, obviously. Jim Mahfood's gonna be there. I email back and forth with him on occasion, so it's like, you know what I mean? You just have to get the hustle on, folks. And people can tell if you reach out to them in a professional manner, and all this is an interview with Don Simpson. That's what this is. But what I want to say is, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to people. You just have to approach people in a professional manner. And the thing that I could recommend doing, because no cartoonist wants to hear this because they don't care, and if you do it, you're kind of coming off like a fanboy. You don't be like, oh, I'm such a fan of your work and blah 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 blah. It's like, that's not how you should approach cartoonists, in my opinion. It's like, you know, hey, introduce yourself. I'm so and so from wherever. You know, I just wanted to reach out today because I really admire what you do, and kind of leave it at that. Like, I like your work. Like, don't fanboy over stuff, because that could be off-putting for a lot of people, because you have to remember, like, we're in comics, and especially in comics, there's a lot of fanboy stuff that goes on, right? Like, they don't really grasp or, like, understand the nuances of, like, comics and that kind of thing. Like, they're purely like, I love my Superman, and, you know, whoever, I like Jim Lee, and he draws a really cool Wolverine. And, like, that's all they do. They just, you know, look at Wolverine comics, right? Like, that kind of stuff. All I do is watch, like, Marvel Avenger movies. You know what I mean? Normies, basically. So you have to be aware that these types of people are constantly, like, slamming cartoonists, artists, or whatever with emails constantly. So you have to present yourself in a manner that sets yourself apart from other people. So, you know, like I said, just try to be personable and try to be as genuine as possible, because I'm just going to bring this up full here. Give me a second. Switching cameras, there we go. So yeah, I mean, that's just something that you got to remember. It's like, you have to try to be as genuine as possible, because especially people that have been in the business for as long as, like, people like Don Simpson have been, you know, since like the 80s and so forth, they can smell bullshit from a mile away, right? Like, they can tell people who are serious and people who are not serious. And that's the thing, is if you say that you're going to do something and you tell somebody that, you have to follow through, because nobody else is going to want to work with you otherwise. So it's like, if you're working on something for somebody and, like, you send the pages, they're not there, and you're like, hey, what's going on? And you just don't hear from them anymore. Then it's like, well, fuck. And it's like, well, now you're going to throw that dude under the bus, and now nobody's going to want to work with that guy because he has a bad reputation of not turning in work, what have you, right? And, like, that's just something that's, like, well-known in cartooning. Is just like, if you say you're going to do the work, you have to do the work, or you're going to get blacklisted from everybody, because, you know what I mean? It's like, cartoonists are kind of like small, tight-knit group, and it's like, you understand, like, what it takes to get to the point to where you can make comics. Like, it's thousands of hours sitting at a board, drawing to where you get to the point where you can even draw a figure nice, and then you have to learn how to draw buildings and perspective and this and that and all these different techniques. Actually getting a page done and printed is in of itself a fucking challenge. So don't shorten yourself with, you know, bullshit. Basically, is what I'm saying. Be true to yourself. I want to show this off here quick, and this will be probably one of the last things that we'll look at. So, cause I haven't ate yet today, and getting kind of hungry, and plus I got like other things I got to get done. So, let's flip back to the overhead camera quick. All right. Car Warriors. How many of you have heard of this? I'm going to bet 0. Okay, so Car Warriors is something that I've been collecting now for probably about a year. I want to say I've known about it. $1 bin, 50 bin special, folks. Like, this is where you'll find these books. I do not see them very often. I typically will see, like, I think they only made like 5 issues of this. I could be wrong, but they didn't make very many. I see issues like 2 and 3 all over the fucking place in like dollar bins and stuff, but number 1 and like 4 and 5, like they seem pretty like out there. So I finally found a number 1. I was like, hell yeah. Folks, if you don't know what Car Warriors is, this is some shit right here. You're about to find out. So you're kind of like, okay, like it just looks like, you know, it's some strong art. And then we got this kind of stuff going on. You're like, okay, like what's going on here? We got like some cool motorcycle action going on, like dudes with Uzis. Like, okay, I can get down with this. And it's like, okay, now these bikers are about to try to rob this guy, right? Like, so it's about to go on, like they're chasing this dude down. Look at this. The trucker just blasts this dude, just exit wound and everything, man. Look at that. That's interesting, Jeff. Yeah, I didn't know that there was a game for that. But dude, this is just insane. It's like colored outlaw comics is like the best way to describe it, because you know typically like your outlaw comic is going to be more just straight black and white, your crows, so on and so forth, and this is a colored outlaw comic. Like, look at this. That dude just getting blasted through the brain, man. And this was put out through Epic, which was like Marvel's like whatever you want to call it, their adult line at the time. I think it's Chuck Nixon is the guy's name. No, that's the writer. Steve Dillon and Phil Winslade are the penciler inker. Chuck Dixon was the writer. But yeah, I think this is like an early 90s. Yeah, 91 was when it came out. But like I said, like this super badass book. I have like the first 3 issues of it, so I still don't own like the last couple of ones that they have. Super hard to find. Like I dig through bins trying to find it, but if you guys see Car Warriors, man, you gotta pick it up. It's so cool. It's like one of those dollar bin books. Like, how did this thing end up in a dollar bin? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's like a mix between like Death Race 2000 and like Mad Max and just like Demolition Man, you know, like those weird like Judge Dredd, like those kind of like post-apocalyptic, like futuristic sort of things. Super cool. Yep, good old Steve Dillon action. Yeah, like I said, this is something that I've been collecting for like a year or so now, and you just don't see them ever. So if you do see them out there, like I said, this is like the dollar bin special, so this is where you're gonna find it, and it like blows my mind that this shit's in a dollar bin. It's crazy. So, oh wow, look at that. Didn't even see this when I flipped through it last night. Book 1 hasn't even come out yet. Crazy. get this put away here. And I'll show you off some of the back issues that I picked up as well, besides the car warriors. I mean, I'm probably not going to flip through them for the sake of time. Again, I got to feed the girlfriend and whatnot here, but I'll show this stuff off to you guys real quick. And then again, like, I flipped through this stuff in my full video that I'm going to have coming out. So if you actually want to see the insides of this stuff, I flipped through it. So I picked this up. So this is called Edge. Death Race 2000. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Death Race 2000. That's what it reminded me of. And ironically, my girlfriend has never, seen like Death Race 2000, so on and so forth. And dude, if you've ever been on Tubi before, like, I've been on Tubi for a while now, and like they just have like the coolest, like, especially like Japanese stuff, like deep cut stuff. But recently, dude, they like posted up like grindcore movies, so like Death Race 2000, Death Proof, Planet Terror, like, those kind of movies. So like Tubi is full of that stuff right now. So it's like, if you don't have Tubi, man, don't sleep on it, because like it's free, and it might seem like a cheap piece of shit, but there's incredible stuff on Tubi. So I picked this up out of the dollar bin, and Silver Wolf had put this out. They put Grips out, which is like that Tim Vigil book, and you guys know, you're a fan of my channel. It's like, I love Tim Vigil. This is like one of the weakest comics I've ever seen. Like, you would think like this would be outlaw through and through, and you get to the first page, you're like, oh, okay. And you flip through it, and there isn't a speck of blood in this thing. So it's like, just skip it. If you ever see it, save your money. Yeah, and they put up like a bunch of like Power Rangers stuff on there, like Godzilla movies. Like, Tubi is kind of like your weird, obscure, like, streaming place where like all the shit that I am interested in watching is like sitting at. It's like, do I really need to watch Seinfeld for like the 800th time on Netflix? Probably not. But I started to watch a show yesterday. It's on Tubi. It's called Goku Private Eye is what it's called. Write that down and go look it up. It's on Tubi. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called Goku Private Eye, from what I remember. And I watched there's only 2 episodes of it, and they're like an hour a piece. And I watched about a half of the first episode, and just like the first like 10 minutes of it, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. It's just, your typical Japanese just nonsense. Very Akira inspired, obviously. But you watch it and you're just kind of like, oh, this is kind of like a very stylish, like, noir cop story. And then like some shit goes down and you're like, oh, there's like more going on here, like cyborgs and that kind of stuff, like futuristic stuff. So like I said, I didn't even know about it, and it was randomly on Tubi. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. So I just clicked on it and started to watch it. It seems cool. So like I said, it's called Goku Private Eye. I'll look into it. Batman Adventures. I've been slowly napping these guys up. Bruce Timm and like Paul Dini, big fans of them. Obviously, that's more of like the character aesthetic that came from those guys. But I've been collecting these. I think that I have pretty much like the first. I don't have number 1 of this, and I think that's the only one I'm missing now. So I have like 1 through 22. I was missing 1 and 5, so I'm still missing number 1. But love me some Batman Adventures, man. The animated series is, of course, classic. Can't go wrong. I finally found these. I've been trying to track these down for a while. The good old Tomb Raider comics. Anytime I try to find these things, you just can't. I'm sure that anybody that bought these are probably just holding on to them. They're not expensive if you don't see them. They printed a shitload of these, I can tell you that. So that's what's kind of surprising to me, that they're kind of hard to come by. But yeah, so I picked up 0, 1, and a half there. So that's kind of what we were looking at, and was what blew my mind, because in my comic shop, yeah, typical Japanese nonsense. But typically the comic shop, they had like variants covers even, which was like crazy to me, because I've never even seen those. So these are variant covers. But yeah, dude, the Tomb Raider comics, you know, they're 90s image, digital, but I'm a big fan of, especially like the original like 4 games. The 5th game, but you know, the original like 6 games, I would say they're pretty decent. The first 4 I really like. Good old Tomb Raider. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, it says Ching Liams did the cover for this one. And this one says J.D. Smith, Andy Park. 2001. Savage Street Vigilante, this is the Jim Rugg variant cover. Of course, I backed this day and date when it had come out. I flipped through this again in the full video, so if you want to see a little bit of the insides, you know, feel free. But Jim Mahfood, this is just a batshit crazy book. Pun intended. So I enlisted, Lord have mercy. It's like my Marine Corps PTSD is coming at me. I enrolled into the Joe Kubert correspondence course. So I've been studying a lot of Joe Kubert stuff. That is actually where I had drawn this cover in that I did for the anthology book. I drew it inside the Joe Kubert school, one of their correspondence book courses here. So you can see it was like having you like draw buildings and stuff. So that was like the challenge. It was like, hey, make a cover with like blah 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 on it, and that's what I came up with. So the correspondence books are really cool. If you guys don't have these, I think there's 12 of them total. I bought 6 to start. But basically, what they are is they have different ones. Here, I'll bring the thing up here full screen so you can see better. Switch cameras here. So there's different books. So this one specifically focuses on story and graphics. So it, you know, basically runs down like, here's how you should probably lay out a page. Here's how like a page should flow. Just kind of like basic stuff like that. Just like what you should do. And then there's like full on like assignments in here. I'm like, hey, draw like a Frankenstein's monster or draw a vampire or whatever. And it gives you like little things. And there's like full Bristol board in here. So like this is Bristol, 110 pound. And then you can either scan like your artwork that you're making for like, because there's lessons in here and then there's assignments. So the lessons are just practice, right? And then your assignments, like you can either mail those to the Joe Kubert school, or you can like scan them in, touch them up, and then send them out, and then like email them to them. Steve Bissett is one of the instructors. So this was something that they started in 2020, I want to say, and they still offer it. And like I said, there's 12 books. And people sell these on eBay way cheaper than the Joe Kubert school does, and that's where I got them from. And guess what? You can still send these over to the Joe Kubert school, and they'll give you insight on them. So just so you guys are aware, that's a little cheat code. But yeah, I've gotten feedback from Mr. Bissett, and you can't. What I mean, like that's just invaluable. Like, what more can you say about it? Like I have I pulled this out the other day. I flipped through it. There is a bunch of Steve Bissett pinups and like this Turtles comic. So I got the email back and I was like, oh, this is in Steve Bissett mode. So if you guys haven't checked this out, this is the Mighty Immunibles Winter '91. It's the '96 special that they did. It's the issue #1. Man, how many issues of this did they make? Wasn't very many. I want to say they stopped at like 5 or 6, and it was like a mini series that they had done, where it just kind of focuses on the mutants of TMNT. Here, I'll just show it to you guys here quick. Got to do some camera flipping here. Give me a second. Yeah, being able to talk with Steve Bissett, man, is what a guy. All right, here we go. So it's like, here's a gallery of Steve Bissett pinups in a Turtles comic. Like, okay. It's like, look at this stuff, man. The reason why I pulled this was because of the Mondo Gecko that I remember that was in this. Really want to study this drawing. There's a lot of screen tone that's actually going on, like the bottom of the skateboard. So, been studying that a little bit. Some Steve Bissett screen tone action. Leatherhead and Wingnut, Screw Loose. Oh, good old belly bomb there. Big Turtles guy. I got 2 shelves in my living room full of turtle toys. Big toy collector, so like Turtles was like my first big thing that I got into when I first started collecting toys. And then I started getting into other things, obviously, and it's like Turtles and Mo 2, like Masters of the Universe, are probably like the 2 biggest things that I collect. And Spawn stuff as well. I collect a lot of Spawn. But yeah, so I picked this up. This is something that my local comic shop has just had for a long time, like their magazine boxes. Never really been a big fan of Joe Kubert. Like the Kubert, don't get me wrong, they're legendary. I'm not taking that away from them, but just in, you know, I like outlaw comics, that sort of thing. Obviously, this is more comic booky. However, the school is that's the cartoon school, right? Like that's where you should go. That's where everybody should learn, so on and so forth. Like you want to take it serious, like in terms of like an academic level, like that's the place. So I picked this up just to be like, I want to look at his art more and start to appreciate it more, which I'm starting to do, because like those Joe Kubert correspondence course books, they've really changed my like my perspective when it comes to like not superhero cartooning, but I guess I should say like more mainstream style of like comic drawing, because I think that even with there's a lot of people that have like that generic house style, which is just throwaway, like I don't care, like get it out of my face. But at least with like people like Joe Kubert or like, you know, Klaus or so on and so forth, like those dudes, they at least have a style to their art. Even if they're doing like the quote-unquote house style, you can at least tell that it's them, right? Same thing with like Todd or Larson, so on and so forth. Like you could tell like that dude drew Spider-Man, that guy drew Spider-Man, you know, that's Romita Jr. Spider-Man, that's Romita Sr. Spider-Man. Like, you know what I mean? You can tell the differences in who drew this character as opposed to just, I'm drawing a Wolverine like everybody else. So you start to gain like a lot of appreciation for people that have that skill set to where it's like they can make their own like art aesthetic, but still have it be within that quote unquote like mainstream look. You know what I mean? It's admirable. I think that's really about everything that I have, because I got, oh, nope, I got something else here. I just picked this up on a whim. We were literally just talking about Larson and Spider-Man. But yeah, I picked this up, so my comic shop, unfortunately, like one of the you know, dudes that would go into the comic shop all the time, he was an older gentleman. He had passed away recently, and his family you know, came into the comic shop and sold off his collection, because like, you know, it's one of those things, I guess, collectors that this is, you know, this is a topic that I think people need to have, but as a collector, when you get older, don't hang on to your shit, folks. Like, be responsible and get rid of it, and don't make it your family's responsibility, because you have things like that happen, right? And it's like, and as a collector, you would think, I want these to go to like the best homes possible, so on and so forth. So it's like, slowly get rid of your collection over time as you're getting older, because you don't want to burden other people with that stuff, right? And like, and if you die, like, you don't know what the fuck is going on with those books. And if you're a collector and you actually care about that stuff, you want to know what's happening to it, right? Like, you want to give it a good home. So it's, don't leave your house filled with long boxes when you finally decide to croak. Like, take it upon yourself to actually do something with them and like get rid of them or whatever. Because you never know. So again, this is like, their family kind of got burdened. So like, they brought in, like, the comic owner was telling me, they brought in like 20 like plus long boxes. They didn't know what it was because they don't know anything about comic books. So he had to go through and like price everything and give them quotes and so on and so forth. Like 20 plus long boxes we're talking, you know what I mean? So it's like, don't be that guy. Yeah, exactly. Let the books find a new home. Like, don't be that guy, you know what I mean? Like, I know you don't know when you're gonna fucking die, but if you're 75 years old, like, you know what I mean? Like, be a little realistic with yourself. That's what I'm saying. Like, everybody fucking dies. That's a part of life. So just try to be as self-aware as possible. You know what I mean? Like, collectors. Like, I have all these toys and so on and so forth. Like, I don't want to burden people with that. You know what I mean? So just be aware of that kind of stuff. So yeah, this just came from his LCS. And so my comic shop has just been packing Savage books. I have the first like 3 Ultimate collections or whatever of this, so that's going to be like your hardcovers, and I think that collects like the first 40 issues, 50 issues maybe. It's like 1 through 50, because I think the first one's like 1 through 17, and the other one's like 17 through 22 or something. And there's like a bunch of like weird like one-shots and like spin-offs like that are in there, like the Turtles one, the Flaming Carrot one, so on and so forth. So all those are in those books, but I don't have any single issues outside like the first like handful of Savage Dragon, and like all of like the team-ups and spin-offs I own for Savage Dragon, but the actual single issues I don't have. Typically, if I have them in a collection or a hard book, I don't do that. However, I'm a big enough fan of Dragon to where I got these specifically to like study, rather than constantly having to pull out my hardcover book and like have it at my desk or whatever if I'm going to be studying Larson or what have you. It's just easier for me to, you know, grab a single issue and kind of use it to read or flip through, you know what I mean, to study. So picked up a fat stack of these. It's 13 through 27, and I picked it up for $37, which, hey, that ain't a bad deal. Go ahead and flip these cameras over again. All right, but yeah, I think that's probably where we're gonna start wrapping it up here. Went probably a little hour over what I wanted to, but hey, we're just hanging out talking comics. There's nothing wrong with that. No. So, no, Jeff. So all of them are still making comics, actually. Jim Lee, for the most part, he mainly just does like covers and things like that, which it's fine. You know, he's an executive at like one of the biggest, one of the big 2s at DC, right? So he doesn't necessarily have a lot of time to like do a monthly comic or whatever. So, but he mostly just does that. Larson still doing a monthly book. Todd, he got Gunslinger Spawn. You know, he wrote, so he's doing more like writing and stuff like that. And obviously he does covers and all that kind of stuff. But you have to remember too, Todd has a toy business, and he's the one that's running that for the most part. He has a super small team. Like I think he has like 30 employees, like maybe even less than that. So it's like a small business, but they do a lot of business, obviously. So it's like the dude's just busy. So outside of like toys, the very limited amount of time that he does have, he's mainly doing writing and covers. Larson or Liefeld, he does like G.I. Joe comics. I think he had done like a couple of G.I. Joe things recently. You know, he's been involved with like the Deadpool movies a little bit, kind of giving advice or what you're going to say, kind of like overlooking the creative on it a little bit. I want to say he's doing other things as well. Liefeld is. I don't. Valentino, I'm not too sure what he's been up to. To be honest with you, I think he's still just putting around and just mainly just doing businessy stuff. So I think Valentino is more of the pavement hitter for Image, to where he is going out and scouting for talent and signing talent and that sort of thing. That's kind of his thing. He's more of like the agent at Image, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of what his role is. That's he's, you know, signing people's contracts and stuff is kind of like his thing, I believe. I think that's all of them, right? I mean, Hank Kanata, like, who cares? I don't even know what, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think that's where we're probably going to wrap it up, though. So let's go ahead, for the sake of wrapping it up. As always, folks, I'm going to keep pounding this just to keep the word out. I will be at EddiePCon the September 13th and the 14th. I will be there both days. I'll be there probably like a couple days prior, then as well a couple days afterwards. Purely because I'm going to be shooting stuff with other people there and doing comic crawls and whatnot. So come hang out, come pick up some comics from me. I should have 2, maybe 3 comics out by that time. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then again, if you're out there and you owe me page edits, you know, be sure please to get them to me if you haven't done so already by tomorrow, so that way we can get the book done, because I am completely finished on my end with everything. Like, the book is completely edited, it's designed. All I have to do is drop in your art and, like, you know, resize it to where it fits good in with the book and number your pages, and we are done. So as soon as I get your stuff, we're talking, it'll take me an hour or 2 to look over the book, and we're donezo. So if you are a cartoonist working for pages for me, keep an eye out on your email, because probably in like a week or 2, I'm going to be reaching out to you and I'm going to be asking for shipping information, because the printing service that I'm going to be using, they are going to be sending you the books. They're not coming from me, so that takes off a lot of burden off myself. So I have to get your information before I can send the books off to the printer, because they're going to be coming from the printer to you guys. I'm going to be sending everyone 10 copies a piece. I believe we have somebody who's international, maybe in like Germany, Belgium, over there. I could be wrong. I think Anzrai might be from there. I could be wrong, but if you're international, please let me know like right away, because obviously I'm gonna have to ship it differently, because that company's not gonna ship something to you know, somewhere international. With that being said, tariff nonsense, all that kind of bullshit that's going on right now, so I don't know how that's really gonna affect you on the backside of everything. So do keep that in mind, that when you do ship these, when I do ship these things to you, you're probably gonna have to pay taxes for them. So just full disclosure on that, just because of all the real world bullshit that's going on. So unfortunately, that's just something we just kind of have to deal with. So if you are international, please let me know right away, so that way we can get the shipping stuff taken care of before I get the rest of the book sent off to everybody else. So that way I know, hey, I got to send 10 more to myself, so I can send you them out of my, you know, out of here for me. So yeah, just keep an eye on your guys' email inboxes. And I'm gonna reach out and get everybody's shipping information, so I can send you guys your books. That was the point of doing this. It was, yeah, I understand that we're not, like, I'm not paying you guys, but I'm sending you issues, that way you can at least sell them, give them away, put out a name for yourself, because I'm pricing them at $5 a piece myself personally. So that's what's going to be the sticker price on the front of the book. So if you guys want to sell them at $5 a piece, go for it. That's completely up to you with what you want to do with your comics. They're yours. But at the end of the day, if you sell them, that's $50 that I put in your pocket. So think about that. Yes, you did the work. You put in your pages. That's fucking awesome. But you know, at the end of the day, like, I wanted to support you guys as much as I can. Like, I'm not made out of fucking gold, right? But like, sending your copies, like, put a little bit of money in your pocket, get your names out there. Kind of the point of everything, get everybody motivated. So hey, everything's coming according to plan. So that's what we like to. That's what we like to see. And yeah, there will be a second and probably third volume of it as well. So keep an eye out for that. Like I said, probably like late May, early June, I'll probably put up the submissions. It'll be another 4 weeks. Give me 1 to 6 pages. Hopefully we get a lot more traction on this one. I did have to get a little picky and choosy towards, because like the second to last day, I had like 3 submissions, and I was like, oh boy, this ain't gonna work. I ain't gonna have the pages. Don't get me wrong, like I have pages of my own that I was just gonna slot in anyhow, if I didn't have the page count. But you know, people showed up, and a little more than expected. I had to be a little picky and choosy between art a little bit. Had to reject like 2 or 3 different ones purely because like they just weren't up to snuff for what we were looking for, right? Like I want to be as courteous as possible, and that was again one of the things I was trying to do is like, you know, I don't care if you're a kid or whatever. It's like if you're giving me a comic and it's like it's a comic, it's readable, it's somewhat professional looking or whatever, like I'll bounce it back to you, give you a little bit of help or what we can do to make it the best thing possible. But hey, I'll publish it, man. So it's like, hopefully this next go around, once people see like once the actual book looks like, you know, in print, it's not amateurish, folks. Like it's not like, it looks professional. And I was actually looking at Jim Mahfood's like Savage Street Vigilante compared to like the design that I put into this book, and I mean, I don't want to like sit here and pat myself on the back or anything, but it's like I think like the design for like the anthology book that we're working on here, it smokes that book. So you know what I mean? I think it's even better than what some of like the pros are doing right now is what I'm getting at. So that was on them for sleeping on it. So good on you guys for showing up and giving me pages. But yeah, September 13th to the 14th, I'm gonna be hawking this thing. The anthology at EDPCon, as well other art and whatnot. Just so you guys are aware, if you sell through your copies, do not be afraid to ask for more, because I'll send you more. That's really not a problem. At the end of the day, you know, again, I want to support you guys, so on and so forth. I can already tell you that I have 3 deals with shops already here in town. Local comic shop, 2 other shops here in the area. They already signed up to take 5 issues a piece off of myself. Once they run out, they're gonna call for more. I'm not taking them out of consignment. They're buying them up front, which is awesome. Because you know how consignment works is like you give them the book. If they sell it, then you go collect the money, and then whatever they don't sell, they give you the product back. They're buying them from me outright, which is awesome. And I think once people see these things on the rack, because I've walked in the comic shop before, and this is one of the big inspirations why I started drawing. It's like seeing just like the weak ass comics that people are putting out like locally or just like independent comics, you know what I mean? And it's like seeing how weak they looked, and just it's like, who's buying this shit? And like you walk into the comic shop and like they're just sitting on the racks so nobody's buying them. I have a sneaking suspicion that like our book is going to go like this, and I'm gonna get a call from the shop within like a day or 2, and they're gonna ask for more copies. Just judging off of the art and everything like that, the design, the pages and everything that people have turned in, it's a comic book, baby. We're out here, we're making good ones. Couldn't be more proud, man. It's like, what more can we say? It's like we're turning out good shit. I'm happy about it. Okay, so yeah, after this I'm gonna go edit the video, so just keep an eye out. Probably have it up tomorrow, more than likely at some point, so just keep an eye out for that. It'll be up on the channel. I have a full hunt at my local comic shop, and then we're going to be doing the haul at the end. We did flip through some of it, but the stuff that was still bagged and boarded, you know, some of the packages like the Tomb Raiders and Savage Street Vigilante, so on and so forth. So if you're interested in seeing the insides of those books, I do flip through those, so feel free to check out the video. Next week's stream, I do not know what we're going to do. I'll figure it out. We might just sit and bullshit and talk about comics again, to be honest with you, because it's kind of where we're at. Otherwise, I might have another haul. I do have videos from West Coast Avenger videos. I do have a book coming from Dave. So those should be here tomorrow. So I mean, we could always flip through those. I did buy a handful of books from him. So we can always flip through those, and plus I have, you know, my long boxes sitting over on the opposite side of my studio over here, so we can pull out random comics and things like that. Now that I'm standing here and kind of looking at this is something that we can flip through a little bit, because we were on the copy of like Steve Bissett. I had like this little Mirage mini comics. So this is just a bunch of mini comics from dudes that were at Mirage, and there's a bunch of like Bissett stuff that's in mini comics that are in here. So, you know, we could have like a little Steve Bissett, I don't know, like, what do I want to say, like themed show or whatever. Just pull out some Steve Bissett stuff and maybe look at it. I have, yeah, you know, I got Swamp Thing and some of that Mirage stuff, some of the Turtle stuff. I have that dinosaur comic. I can't remember what the hell it's called. I don't have any at Taboo, unfortunately, which I wish I did, but I can't remember. Tyrant, that's the name of it, that dinosaur book that he did, which is awesome. They actually sell Tyrant at like museums and stuff like that, because it's like it's an educational book, but it's, you know, drawn by Steve Bissett. It's about a baby dinosaur and it's like its life and that sort of thing, but it was made to be as educational as possible. So he had like advice from paleontologists and so on and so forth, like telling him like, no, this is like how a baby dinosaur would have incubated in an egg and so on and so forth. So it's about like the life of a dinosaur, called Tyrant. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So we might be able to take a look at some of that and see. Otherwise, you know, who knows? I have a million ideas, so we'll see what happens. As always, I'll put up a what do you want to say? I'll put up an update at some point during the week, kind of give you a weekly update of what we're going to be looking at, kind of what I'm working on, all that kind of stuff. I am currently in the process of launching a website. I started to put one under construction yesterday, so that way, you know, I can sell prints, direct people to my YouTube channel, comics, so on and so forth. So hopefully, probably here in like the next week or two, I'll have that up and running and have a website up. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then start putting up once I start getting prints and things like that from the printer to be able to sell and ship out to people. Start getting a full-on comic business going on here, folks. So we're making moves. Yeah, again, if you're one of the cartoonists working for me, please get me your pages if you haven't done so already, so we can get the book donezo, and keep an eye out on your email inbox for shipping information, because I'm going to need that, because again, it's coming straight from the printer to you guys. It's going to save me a lot of time, effort, and money, and as well, it's going to save you guys a lot of time and effort, because it doesn't have to, I don't have to wait for it to come from the printer to me, then I have to ship it to you guys. It's just coming straight from the printer to you. So it's going to save, again, a lot of time and effort upon everyone. So once I do reach out, just be sure that you do give me a response. And again, if you're international, try to reach out to me right away to let me know before I even do reach out for an address. So that way I know how many copies I need to send to myself right away. All right, well, I guess until next time, folks, we're going to go ahead and call it here. And I hope everybody has a good rest of your weekend. Again, video should be up at some point tomorrow, so just keep an eye out. Hope I have a good rest of your weekend, everyone. All right, thanks for hanging out. Talk comics. Peace.